Hello, hello. Welcome to cEDH Pleasure Brews. I'm Tim.
And I'm Brandon.
How you doing, Brandon?
I am sleepy. How are you, Tim?
You're sleepy. How can you be sleepy? It's only like 8, 9 o'clock.
It's only like midnight.
It's not midnight.
No,
It's
not
10:30 my time, and I'm on the East Coast, and you're not on the East Coast. As he cracks open a Red Bull. Of course, that's why you're sleepy, because you haven't had caffeine yet.
I haven't taken my depression nap today.
There you go. Fair. Depression naps are great. So, continuing in our series of beginner cEDH meta busters, I actually wanted to go over an Azorius deck tonight that is new. I know. People might be worried. I'm trying to tell people to play blue, white, and cEDH. But this thing's actually good. It's really good. It's been impressed. I mean, I even was impressed by playing against it so much I put it together to take it for a spin. Or take it for a spin. So what we got here is Shorikai Genesis Engine. So this was from Kamigawa Dynasty. It's a white, a blue, and 2 colorless for an 8/8 vehicle. Legendary artifact vehicle. All right. Most of all that text is kind of irrelevant. The text that you really want is the 1 colorless tap, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. And then it does some other stuff about making a 1/1, blah, blah, blah. It has crew rate. But, you don't really care about the 1/1s that much. And really what you want is you want the 1 tap, draw 2, discard 1. So you now have an infinite mana outlet that draws your deck in the command zone in Azorius. That is not something you had before. So this is a new thing. And that's what's so exciting about it, is that finally blue-white has a way to leverage infinite mana in a way that allows them to draw their deck and close the game out.
So I would say that this is almost like a Thrasios to how we're playing it specifically.
Yes. You actually, which is what I'm going to get into here in a moment. But yes, it gives you a way to do that, because what you can do is you can. So I don't want to get ahead of myself, but that's the TLDR of what this deck is all about. Is the 1 mana tap, draw 2, discard a card. That's the important text on this card for the most part. Making the 1/1s is kind of important because it can be a hard outlet if you need it. So what that does is that leverages you. So what are some of the best ways to make infinite mana in blue-white? So there's really 2. The first one is to do Tight Spot Tyrant, Hull Break Horror lines, where you are planes, you play rock, you bounce it, they're mana positive, and you kind of repeat that process till you have a bunch of mana, right? And you can assemble that off of polymorph effects. Polymorph, for those of you who don't know what that is, it either destroys the creature, or if you're playing, there's an artifact that does it, which we'll talk about in a moment. It tucks it to the bottom of the library. Then you flip the top cards of your library until you reveal a creature card. So what you do is you literally just set up your deck with 1 or 2 creatures in it. In this case, we're running 2 because we're going to run Hullbreaker Horror, and Tight Spot Tyrant. And then you combo off from there. And you just cast any spell. You bounce a 0-drop rock to your hand, replay the 0-drop rock, bounce something else. And as long as you're mana positive, now you've got unbound mana. Okay? So that's 1. The other way is to use Isochron Scepter with Dramatic Reversal. So what you do is you play the Isochron Scepter, and then you imprint Dramatic Reversal on it, which Dramatic Reversal untaps all non-land permanents you control. So the way it works with Scepter is Scepter, you pay 2 and you tap it, and then it puts a copy of the spell on the stack. So you've already tapped the Scepter. Then once the Dramatic Reversal resolves, it'll untap your Scepter. Okay? And then with that in mind, you can keep untapping all of the 16 mana rocks that you have, 18 mana rocks that you have, somewhere around there. I'm kind of drawing a blank on the exact amount off the top of my head, even though I'm staring at them. I think there's 14. And then you can use that also. Then once you have your unbound mana, you play your Shorikai, keep untapping Shorikai, draw your deck. Okay.
Quick
So you got
question.
those two avenues to kind of making the unbound mana. One of them actually not only does it make you unbound mana, but it also draws your deck. With Tidespot Tyrant and Hallbreak Horror, you can actually do the same thing, because what you do is you start the loop by bouncing mana positive rocks. And then once you have done your mana positive rocks, then you switch to just bouncing Shorikai over and over again and tapping it and reactivating it.
Quick question, Tim,
Yes, sir.
because I'm sure we're probably going to get a lot of questions about this, and I'm not super sure myself. Shurikai doesn't act as a creature until you crew it, right?
Correct. So it gets around some of the other cards in the deck, and legitimately, until you crew it, it has haste.
Okay. You see, that's what I was a little bit confused about.
Yeah. So since it's not a creature but a vehicle, it doesn't gain the properties of a creature until it is crewed. So therefore, it is not an 8/8, and it does not get affected by summoning sickness. So yes, I guess I did leave out that important little tidbit there. So, but yeah, so what you do is you, once you have your unbound mana, when you go to bounce one of your, like you play your rock and then you bounce the other card, you just make the other card your Shorikai. Replay the Shorikai, bounce the rock, draw a card, do the thing, and then now you've drawn your deck. So with that in mind, so now what do we do once we have like our deck in our hands? We have like Scepter, we're able to cast all the spells we want. How do we actually win the game? Just not do a bunch of fancy stuff, right? So we have a couple of ways. The cleanest, if possible, is once you've drawn your deck, you can just simply bribery an Oracle, Thassa's Oracle, out of your opponent's library and win that way. It's kind of the cheesy way, but it's effective. We're playing cEDH, and that's what cEDH is about, is effectiveness. You can also like do things where you, like some of the versions run like twister loops where you can just play bribery over and over again and kind of use it like a Praetor's Grasp to like steal their dock side, then take their other thing, take their other thing, take their other thing, take their other thing, and you take a bunch of creatures. The versions with Twister will also run like Narset, Windfall as well, to kind of bounce everybody's like non-land permanents to their hand, or if you've got the Tidespot Tyrant out, bounce all their permanents to their hand, strip them away with the wheel, and then they only get to draw the one card off Narset, and then they're restricted to drawing one card per turn, and you have like a whole grip of stuff. This version is actually made by Diggles. He is kind of a friend of a friend, and I really liked his list. That's why I went with it. So obviously you can bribery Thassa's Oracle. There's some other win con creatures you can get. Like you can, the possibilities are endless, but Oracle's the most common. So next is you can do a Imposter Mech, which allows you to copy a creature your opponents control, like copy their dockside or copy like their Kenrith or their Thrasios or whatever, just to kind of act as another redundant piece. You also have Copy Artifact, which allows you to do double Scepter lines, where you can put a bounce spell like a Psych Rift or something and just bounce all their crap to their hand. You know, you can play Windfall, which mills them out. You can do stuff like that. You also have Blind Obedience, which is a hate piece that doubles as a hard outlet. So you can, since you're able to, like, between the Scepter and between the Tidespot Tyrant effects, cast chain a bunch of spells over and over again, you can just pay the extort cost. And since the black mana symbol is in the reminder text, not in the actual activation costs, it is legal to play it in an Azorius deck. It's actually legal to play it in any mono white deck or any deck with white. And what you do is you basically just ping everybody to death because you can just chain a bunch of stuff over and over again. The other thing that's really attractive about this deck is that not only can you play under things like Blind Obedience, you get access to Counterbalance, you get access to Dress Down, you get access to Humility, and you can play under them very effectively because your commander is not a creature.
I hate
you can
that.
do tricky things where you skull clamp those little 1/1s to draw a bunch of cards. You can also do, why am I drawing a blank on it? You can, like, if you have Scepter, you can activate Scepter and draw your deck with Top. Like, that's another redundant line, like, to help. A lot of these lines, like, seem like, well, I mean, if I can just do that, I'll, why don't I just do it with Shorikai? Well, sometimes you kind of have to assemble these other outlets to get to the point where you can cast your Shorikai. It's kind of like a snowballing your win, because a lot of times when you'll start comboing over under like a Draenith Magistrate, so you'll need to draw into the bounce spell or the removal spell to get rid of whatever that is. But being able to play a deck that plays under Humility and cEDH is like incredible, like, to be honest, because Humility is kind of the holy grail of stacks pieces. Like, it shuts off Docksize, it shuts off Oracles. Like, just think of all the like, what if you told Dothi Voidwalker to go fuck itself? Like,
what if you told
Draenith,
your other commanders to go fuck themselves?
Yeah, like, oh, Crom, who gives a shit? It's a 1/1 with no abilities, right? So that's one of the like, this is very much reminds me of like a classic legacy deck called Landstill.
What I will say is that this is my first time seeing the deck, as you're aware, but it's honestly extremely impressive that it's a stacks deck that is also like a really strong combo deck that's not like Brago or Winota. Like, this is like what people have been wanting for Azorius for a long.
Yes, for a long time. Well, it has the potential, and you still play all the blue stack interaction. And I mean, you're not super hard into stacks. You're mostly into stack interaction, and you do have targeted hate pieces like Mind Obedience, Humility, Rest in Peace, and stuff like that. But you're just able to kind of leverage it very efficiently. You play these polymorph effects. Oh, the other polymorph effect is called Proteus Staff, by the way. I didn't want to forget that. I know I mentioned that I was going to say it later. And they just put you into your win con very effectively. So I don't know. I've seen this deck do a lot of work. There's a couple other versions of it. I'm not only am I going to post Diggle's list, I'm going to post another friend of mine, Ara. She has a variant with Twister Loops. Their lists are a little bit different. I've chosen to try this one out first just because I own all the cards. Anything you think I've missed? Do you have any questions that you feel like I maybe haven't covered quite yet?
Okay. No, I want to try this deck out.
Well, a lot of your cards from Brago will carry over. And I do plan on making a budget version of this build, but I want to get a few games under my belt just to kind of make sure I do it justice. Because it is Azoria, so it is gonna be a little bit of a challenge to budget it down, because a lot of what makes Azorius good is expensive, to be honest. But I think it can be done because the core pieces are cheap. It's just some of the things that make those core pieces work is kind of a challenge. So, all right. Well, with that, I want to thank you again for joining me. It's nice to have somebody to ramble at for 10, 15 minutes at a time. If you have any questions or any ideas on a deck to cover, please leave it in the description, in the comment. I always want to say description for some reason. In the comments below. This link to Tiggle's list will be in the description, as well as links to all of our budget resources, our Discord. And I want to thank everybody who supports us, and have a good night.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.